Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Two brilliant comedians, Dmitry Bakanov and Leo Kurz, take you through tomorrow's papers in headliners. Big opinions, big stories. You won't want to miss a second. But first, the headlines with the rather more trustworthy Tamsin.
Mark, thank you. Good evening. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The MP accused of watching pornography in the Commons says he's resigning. Neil Parish admitted looking at adult material twice in Parliament. A spokesperson for his local Conservative association thanked the MP for his service and said they supported his decision. Mr Parish told the BBC he had a moment of madness and that he's not proud of his actions.
The situation was that funnily enough, it was tractors I was looking at, and so I did get into another website that had a sort of very similar name, and I watched it for a bit, which I shouldn't have done. But my biggest crime, is that on another occasion I went in a second time.
And that was deliberately?
And that was deliberate.
And was that in the Select Committee or in the Commons chamber?
That was sitting, waiting to vote.
Former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall told GB News she's not surprised Mr Parish has resigned.
He will be hounded by the media. He will also be hounded by his residents, quite rightly, who want an answer. But also, if he came back to the House of Commons when we return in a couple of weeks' time, I suspect that all questions will be directed to him about this behaviour. So I can understand why he's done it, but I'm disappointed because it means now that there is no investigation. And I do worry that no action will ever get taken to change the atmosphere that we have.
The Prime Minister has told President Zelensky the UK will provide more military aid to Ukraine. In a phone call to his Ukrainian counterpart, he said he's more committed than ever to reinforcing the country and ensuring Putin fails. It's as Ukraine's defence ministry says Russia is increasing the intensity of their offensive in the east of the country. Meanwhile, a Ukrainian army officer says attacks in the southeastern region are relentless.
Every day there is shelling and artillery training. We wake up not to the sound of an alarm clock, but to the sound of shelling. We will stand here if necessary until death, because this is our land, our people, our prestige. But we need a lot of weaponry. This is not the time for such a war. We need heavy weapons, and only then we can fight back.
A body has been found by police searching for a 33-year-old woman who went missing in Lancashire a week ago. Katie Kenyon was last seen getting into a Ford Transit van in Burnley 8 days ago. Formal identification is yet to take place, but officers say the family of the mother of two has been informed of the discovery. This is GB News on TV, online and DAB+ radio. Now let's get straight back to Mark and headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, a first look at tomorrow's papers with me, Mark Dolan, tonight in the company of Leo Kearse and Dmitry Bakhanov. Lots to get through, but let's start with tomorrow's front pages. And we begin with the Daily Mail. It's the Mail on Sunday, of course. Secret election pact to stitch up Boris. As PM is rattled by resignation of Porn MP, the Tories' chairman accuses Starmer and Lib Dems of a plot to destroy Boris Johnson. The Sunday Telegraph next. Half of our MPs will be women, say Tories after porn scandal. And fears of summer rail chaos after union threat. The Independent. MP quits over moment of madness. Conservative Neil Parish resigns after admitting he watched pornography twice in the House of Commons. Sunak doesn't get the cost of living impact on the poor. The Treasury has withheld financial support during the cost of living crisis in the belief that households will be able to use their savings to weather the storm, Whitehall insiders told The Independent. Money people did not spend while locked down at home. That's the view of the Treasury, at least according to this unnamed Whitehall source. The Observer next. Disgraced MP broke the law by watching porn in the Commons. And UK envoy's warning over Putin as she returns to Kyiv. The Sunday Mirror. Mum's torment over killer. I had monster Belfield's secret son. Levi Belfield fathered a secret son weeks before killing Millie Dowler, according to a woman today, as reported exclusively in the Sunday Mirror. The Sunday Times. I'm worried the Ukrainians will attack. Paranoia reigns in Transnistria. Rid Commons of cosy culture of debauchery. This according to Lindsay Hoyle, the Commons Speaker. Sunday Express. Exclusive. Secret Services red alert warning. Putin's army of saboteurs target Britain. Johnson and Patel told of threat. Britain's security services were on high alert last night amid fears Vladimir Putin will send saboteurs to the UK. Well, I think that ship has already passed. The Daily Star Sunday, last but not least. I'll say this only once. We ate hello, hello. Good morning. Zut alors. The French had a sense of humour failure over hello, hello, says Mimi LeBonc star Sue Hodge. Perhaps there was something lost in translation. It turns out the French didn't enjoy hello, hello. Who knew? And those are your front pages. Let's kick off, shall we, with pornography and Leo Kearse.
Yeah, not the first time that's been said. But yeah, this is Neil Parish, who's an MP for Tiverton, Dorset or Devon or somewhere like that. And he's resigned. He stood down from being an MP after being caught looking at porn twice in the Houses of Parliament. So he says the first time was an accident. He was trying to look at some tractors and stumbled across porn, and which, you know, we've all been there. In fact, earlier today I was trying to find some porn and all I could find was tractors. But the first time was an accident, but then he thought, wow, I enjoyed that. That was better than looking at tractors. So he went back and deliberately watched porn a second time, which is bad. So yeah, he stood down, and I mean, it seems quite an abrupt, step, considering the things that politicians haven't stood down for. But we've got the local elections coming up, so maybe once the Tory party want a clean slate, they don't want any scandals hanging over them.
Yeah, well, I've got to admit, I was watching a clip of Mrs. Brown's Boys before we came on air, so people in glass houses should not throw stones. But Dimitri, is this a sackable offence?
Well, technically he's broken the law, so I guess. But obviously I understand why Boris Johnson is shocked by that. Because it's hard to explain to him why somebody would quit after breaking the law. And by the way, I also think it's very easy to go from tractors to porn, because tractors are actually considered porn in Ukraine. So.
Yeah, I wondered about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so he was supporting the Ukrainians. It's fine.
Yeah. Farmers are like Ron Germany in Ukraine, aren't they? Really, they are. They are true sex gods. I mean, it's obviously, you know, an issue for the Prime Minister because there will be a by-election now. But it also just paints a picture of the House of Commons as a sleaze fest, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does a bit. And there's other stories. And there have been stories in recent weeks. You know, Angela Rayner, there were comments made that, you know, she was distracting MPs by being a woman. So, you know, there are sexism stories hanging over Parliament at the moment. But I mean, you've got all that power and all that testosterone. I mean, apart from Keir Starmer. Obviously. But it is a place where you know, you've got a lot of big egos, and power is the ultimate aphrodisiac.
I think it's deeply inappropriate, offensive what he did, and it will have upset female colleagues. It's not the right thing to do. But I just wonder whether it's worth losing your seat over.
Yeah, it does seem quite extreme. And, I mean, porn, I mean, it's not illegal to watch porn, obviously. I mean, it's something that's got to be done in the right context. So maybe 11 p.m. in a Travelodge, that's when you can watch porn.
Can you do it at midnight after headliners, do you mind?
Yeah. Don't do it right now.
Yeah.
Like while you're watching. That's,
well, or just do it to Leo Kearse.
If this is your porn, then you definitely shouldn't do it.
You know, we always get a ratings bump when you're on. I wondered what that was all about.
A bump, you say?
Yeah. I think it's the chest hair.
It's rapidly going grey. But yeah, doing it in the Houses of Parliament, where
I didn't say doing it in the. I just meant looking at pornography. Well, let's not get carried away.
That'd be a setting for pornography, wouldn't it? Doing it in the Houses of Parliament, but people can see. People sitting behind you can look down.
Not from behind now. You're going to get us taken off air. It's a family show, Leo. There's kids watching.
Dimitri, help me.
All I'm saying is, look, during the pandemic, a lot of people have watched porn during work hours, especially working from home. He's just taken some bad habits into the office.
That's exactly right.
Maybe this is a hangover from those times.
Nothing more than a little carelessness. Our next story, and a big promise from the Tories with this one, Dimitri, following the news there.
So this is from the Telegraph, and following this scandal, the Tories are trying to clean up their image, so they have promised to make their MPs 50-50, men and women, which is, you know, because I guess that's the only type of porn that they find acceptable as well. There has to be an equal ratio. But yeah, they've decided that there are far too many men. They've looked at Labour, who have more women than men, and they've decided they want also to lose the next election. So they'll. It's a good track record to take on, I guess.
I mean, is it a laudable goal? Because I mean, I just wonder whether we shouldn't simply have the best politicians in Parliament.
What, the best people for jobs in 2022? No, we've got to look at their identity, we've got to look at their race, their gender, their pronouns and all that sort of stuff, and then get the one that ticks the right boxes on the equalities form. That is the way to hire in 2020.
The problem is, though, I mean, how can Labour, for example, police a policy of having 50% female MPs when they don't know what a woman is in the first place?
Exactly.
How will they define it? I mean, will Keir Starmer frisk everyone that comes in? Looking for, like, key vital organs?
That's not how you find out what a woman is these days. You've got to ask them what their pronouns are. And if they say they're she and they or whatever, then they're a woman. And that could be how the Tories are going to get...
So working ovaries won't cut it for Keir Starmer, is that right?
No, because working ovaries could be in a trans man who was born female and transitioned...
Mammary glands, would that do it?
Again, could be in a trans man.
Urethra? Womb?
Yeah.
No. I'm fighting a losing battle here. However, I wonder, Dimitri, whether it isn't women that should be running the country.
Yeah, I know. I have no idea.
I mean, we're men, and we know how stupid men are. You know, Exhibit A, the cast of this show.
Hey,
should we encourage more women into high office? Aren't women more sensible, more down-to-earth, more trustworthy?
Some. And some are unheard. But, like, look, you talk about, like, it's negative to have representation. I disagree. I don't think that there are enough Ukrainian-born stand-up comedians represented in Parliament. So I would like to see that. No,
and this could come back.
When would you look at your pornography? That's the issue.
In my break times.
That's a good point.
That's the appropriate time to do it.
When sitting in the back benches.
Yeah, when nobody can see it.
It's like the classic rule, right? If you go to the cinema, if you want to mess around, you sit towards the back. Or at the back.
That's a good trick of the trade.
Yeah.
I'll do that tomorrow when I go to see Frozen 2.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the 50-50 gender goal could combat sexism, and also it'd be good if they get some lookers in.
Oh yes, yeah.
But I want to know why these quotas they're always like aiming for ratios and quotas in desirable positions like running the country. Where's the 50-50 gender goal for sewage workers or bin collectors? Why is it men who always have to do the grubby tasks that leave you with muck under your fingernails?
Yeah, well said. Yeah,
and I'm not just talking about being in the Houses of Parliament looking at tractors.
I was going to say the same. I know you think it's a desirable position to be an MP. Most people don't want to do it.
I want to do it.
For why?
Well,
for the good Wi-Fi you get in the Houses of Commons.
I was told the only work you do is getting elected, and after that you can do what you want. And I was told to make by an MP. So,
oh, wow, OK.
Although, I should probably point, if I ever did run, I'd work really hard and do the best job I possibly could.
Yeah, well, they've clearly got good broadband in the House. That's certainly one positive. Sex, booze and politics is the life of an MP, according to The Times, Dimitri.
Yeah, this is continuing from the same scandal whereby it's essentially been found that the Houses of Commons are far too masculine, far too misogynistic, and again, they're continuing to try to increase the number of women. Baroness Jenkins of Kennington has said that Westminster is a toxic mix of stress, booze, testosterone and power. And so she's decided to add estrogen to it.
Yeah, what a heady mix. That's what I call a Molotov cocktail. Michael Fabricant, the Conservative MP, has apologised for causing offence recently. Leo, tell us more about this.
So Michael Fabricant, he previously said he'd tried to defend Boris and the lockdown parties at Number 10 by saying, it's just people having a drink at the end of the day, like, teachers or nurses would do. And teachers and nurses said, wait a minute, we don't have a drink at the end of the day. We're too busy. If we're nurses, we're too busy, shoveling COVID fluids into sacks or whatever they do. Teachers are never at work because they're always on holiday. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, teachers don't wait till the end of the day. I mean, for a start, they clock off at about 3 p.m. And these trumped up babysitters at my school, they were getting drunk at lunchtime. So, I think Fabricant, doesn't need to apologise. But he did say it wasn't his intention to cause offence or demoralise nurses and teachers. And he said, I applaud the work of nurses. Well, I hope he did it on Thursday evening on his doorstep with a frying pan, just banging it together.
Well, yeah. I mean, Dimitri, I think we're learning from Partygate and Beergate and lots of other people who worked together as colleagues during the pandemic probably had a beer in the same room that they'd spent all day working. I mean, who cares?
It's OK, I think, as long as you didn't make the rules.
Right.
Right? You've got to set the rules. If you set the rules, you've got to follow them. That's it. Yeah. It's kind of a simple task.
But they had to set those rules because we're a nation of crybabies who need to be mollycoddled and have lots of rules.
Then go by example, that's it. And by the way, having worked in the NHS for years, nurses drink. That's the good thing about nurses.
Of course they do, yeah. Well, it's a stressful job, isn't it?
Yeah.
Doctors as well. I think some of the worst alcoholics in the country are doctors.
Yeah. So. And then when you register with your GP, they ask you how many units you drink. And it's like, what is this? Is this before dinner? No, that's for the whole week.
I have never knowingly told my doctor the truth.
Yeah.
And
Does
I
anybody?
never will. That information is classified, but we'll certainly be having a drink after this. How about this? Prince William is having a royal dilemma and is holding crisis talks with his aides. Dimitri.
Yeah, so following the disastrous royal tour around the colonies.
Yeah, the Caribbean in particular.
Yeah.
Didn't go well, did it?
Well, Prince William has vowed to modernise the monarchy, which I think he's going to wear a hoodie or something like that to show that he's down with the kids. And the thing is, it's like the fact that there's a crisis meeting following public relations blunders where essentially they let people express their views, I find hilarious, because the only public relation was the fact that blunder was the fact that they let somebody express their opinion.
Yeah. And this was local politicians who said that the Commonwealth is wrong, or that the colonisation of the world was wrong, seeking reparations. They were being politicians.
They were being politicians. They gave fair warning. And honestly, I don't like people asking for reparations. But if there's anybody you can ask for reparations from, it is the royal family. Kind of, if you go, well, if anybody took my money, it's definitely you guys. There's historic proof.
Were the royal family involved in slavery, though? I thought they were just involved in, butlers.
In butlers?
Yeah, they've got loads of butlers. But the butlers get paid. I don't know if it was...
Yeah.
They get paid now.
The whole point is that this country, as a population and as a culture, has benefited from slavery, as many countries have. And there hasn't been an empire that didn't have slavery, or a superpower that didn't indulge in it. A deeply wrong thing, but it's not really Prince William's fault.
Well, yeah, I don't think I personally benefited from slavery. Maybe if I was born 400 years ago, I would have. But yeah, this call for reparations, I mean, where does it stop? It's so many hundreds of years ago. Do I, as a Scot, get to call on Sweden and ask for reparations for Vikings enslaving us? Or the Barbary slave trade? And there's so much slavery going on around the world right now. There's slavery in Libya, in the Middle East. In China with the Uyghur Muslims. Yeah. Nobody seems to be doing anything about that, which is something we could actually have a concrete impact on right now, instead of just fussing over stuff that's already happened many hundreds of years ago, and the people who are responsible are long dead.
Yes, I mean, do you think the royal family can be modernised? Because my thought about the monarchy is that, like a lot of British things, it's ridiculous on paper, but it kind of works.
No, they can definitely be modernised. We can convert them to run on electricity instead of diesel. I think we could vote in. We could introduce a sort of elected monarch to go alongside the Queen.
I see.
Great. We've got Jeremy Kyle for a few months.
Oh, I see. So that's a bit like Prime Minister and a President, and you'd have the head of state would be Simon Cowell or something like that. Maybe Gary Lineker?
Well, they're also they're looking to hire new communications people to lead this new approach to modernise the royal family. They've interviewed 2 candidates in their 30s and said that they were so bad that they were wildly inappropriate for the job. Can you imagine going for an interview and then having it publicly said that you were terrible? But also, it's kind of their fault as well. Why did imagine inviting a plumber to a job interview to be a GP? That's kind of on you for the invitation. You know what I would offer them as modernisation? Join Judaism. Why not? That would be new. That would be something...
Yeah, it would be new. Or maybe the Scientologists?
Well, yeah, that's a good point, actually, because Judaism is older, right? Scientology is brand new. But I think it'll be harder to go there because there's too many of Meghan's friends are there, right?
Oh, God, you're absolutely right. And Tom Cruise, John Travolta, it would be impossible. I mean, what do you think? I mean, you're a Brit, you live in the UK. Mm-hmm. But you originally, where were you born?
Ukraine. Well, I was born in USSR.
USSR, right. Which it will be again soon. But look, the bottom line is, what is your view of the monarchy as a concept? Does it seem outdated and strange to you?
I embrace it because I'm here, and I don't want to, be the kind of person that comes over to somewhere that works better than where I ran away from and say, hey, you guys should do things my way. Because, the Soviet approach to monarchies is a bit too brutal.
Well, as I said, I think the idea of a monarchy is on paper, it's bonkers, it's arcane, it's anachronistic, it's strange, it's comical, it's absurd. But I do think it kind of works. And haven't we learnt in the last couple of weeks that it's politicians that can't be trusted, and maybe we're better off in the hands of these figureheads who just have a public but non-political role?
So you want a dictator for the UK?
Ideally.
You want a benevolent
I think for our head of state, the idea of an elected head of state, yet another politician, fills me with horror.
I don't know. I think it works well in America. I think it works well there, and in France it works well. So yeah, I mean, but I think if we don't have an elected head of state, then we could at least privatise the royal family. I want to get some dividends back, and I think if the Queen's going to give Prince Andrew 12 million quid, I think that should come from they should make that money. I think they always say the royals should be there because they bring so much tourist dollars, tourist pounds into the country. which is kind of a nonsense because people go on holiday to France and it doesn't have a royal family. So, yeah, why don't we privatise them and let's get we'll get a Christmas dividend from the royal family.
It's not a bad shout. But my point is, Dimitri, politicians are overrated, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, when it doesn't work, we've got, Ukraine has a great politician right now, Zelensky,
a hero.
Comedian as well. And by the way, he was terrible, but
Was he a rubbish stand-up comedian?
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't my cup of tea. Like, but at the moment, he's doing really well.
Was he a kind of Jimmy Carr one-liners guy, or was he a storytelling Billy Connolly?
Storytelling, but kind of comedy in Ukraine was different.
Yeah.
I think he's a better politician, which doesn't go far.
Well, I think that makes you officially the world's second most famous Ukrainian comedian behind Zelensky.
Probably.
So, watch this space. Brilliant stuff. Well, look, an interesting conversation, I think you'll agree, but we've got lots more to get through. Coming up, we've got Russian TV propaganda and the bikini police. Back to Leo there. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners, a first look at tomorrow's papers with myself, Mark Dolan, tonight in the company of the brilliant comedians Leo Kearse and Dmitry Bakanov. Because it's actually, I know how to say your name, but I think it's written wrong there. Give me the official pronunciation of your name.
Bakanov.
Bakanov, not Banakov.
I am deeply offended.
Let's make sure we spell people's names right, can we please? Now, listen, let's start with this one. Leo, tell us more about the simulated nuclear strike on Europe from Russian state TV.
Yeah, so this was broadcast on Russian state TV, Kremlin-backed TV, which I think is the only kind of TV you can get in Russia. So they simulated a nuclear strike on 3 European capitals as presenters claimed there would be no survivors and the missiles would obliterate London, Berlin and Paris in a matter of minutes. 200 seconds to be exact, with their new, what's it called, the Sarmat missile. They said one Sarmat missile and the British Isles is gone. I think they're underestimating how large Britain is. You cannot destroy it with one warhead. You can maybe take out Kensington or something, but that would actually destroy a lot of Russian property, so they probably don't want to do that. I'm actually wondering what this would do to house prices. I mean, that's the real question on everyone's lips.
In some areas it would raise them, wouldn't it?
Well, in some areas it would improve the local environment. And, I'm not looking at you, Edmonton, but also I'm thinking, well, would it bring down house prices because the houses would be irradiated? humiliated, or would it raise house prices because there'd be less supply? It's really hard to work out. Given what we've seen over the last few decades, I think they definitely still keep going up. But yeah, this was simulated on Russian state TV propaganda in Russia. Yeah. It's pure fantasy. They can't blow up. They can't blow up the British Isles, and if they did try, we'd blow them up, and then who'd be laughing? Well, nobody.
No, and of course it's a colossal nightmare and a human tragedy what's happening in your home country of Ukraine. Do you think Ukrainians genuinely think there's a chance that Putin would press the nuclear button?
Definitely. Because I've got friends in Kiev, I've got friends, well, now in Poland and Germany who've managed to leave, and they do think there's a chance, and they do want, my friends at least, they want Europe to step in, to kind of stop him before he goes any further. So it's unfortunate, and but it is how people feel. Mind you, these are exactly the same people that were telling me to come over when there was a threat of the war, and I also didn't think it would actually happen. So our reliability on political matters isn't great.
Yeah, unfortunately, it looks like, you know, if Putin does use nukes, he's not going to use nukes to fire at Paris or London. He'll use tactical nukes in Ukraine itself. And it's looking like, I mean, he's really been humiliated with his invasion of Ukraine. I mean, the Ukrainians have shown like amazing spirit, an amazing military prowess in repulsing, you know, a much larger military. But they've taken chunks out of Russia's military. It's really been a terrible disaster for Putin. So now that he's getting desperate, he might use tactical nukes on the battlefield.
Although that would be surely a provocation for the start of World War III, wouldn't it?
I mean, I think that would be the first time nukes have been used in a tactical...
The West couldn't tolerate that, could they?
We'd have to wait and see, but I would have thought not, although it would be a big step forward to using intercontinental nukes against the West. So I just can't believe that, you know, after so many decades of the nuclear threat hanging over us, we don't have a missile defence system. Where are the lasers? All our scientists have been doing is developing pronouns and rainbow paint for police cars. Where are the lasers to shoot down these missiles? I'm furious. What are my tax pounds being spent on?
34 billion quid on test and trace.
Yeah, and no lasers to shoot down nukes.
Dimitri, what are your latest thoughts about how this conflict is going to play out?
I'm really hoping that Putin's going to put all his forces into Donbass, try to keep that, and try to save face by doing that. Because I don't think this was planned. I think he had misinformation as to how this was going to go.
You thought it would be a few weeks, maybe?
I think he thought it was even less. I think his generals fed them, you know, what he wanted to hear. He started going down that route, figured out it's not going to go his way, but because he's not able to go backwards, you know, he just has to kind of double down on what he's doing and, you know, pretend it was always planned.
And is there a settlement that would be satisfactory to the Ukrainian people and to the President Zelensky, your fellow comedian? Do you think that there is a gold-plated, diamond-encrusted ladder that Putin can be given to climb down?
I doubt it very much, but we'll see. Because, you know, at some point, actual peace needs to come in. And I do think that's going to mean giving up Donbass and probably the land bridge to Crimea, which is kind of why a lot of stuff is happening.
And could the Ukrainians live with that?
From the people I've spoken to, no.
So that's potentially the solution, except that it's unacceptable to Ukraine.
And we're looking at Russia possibly completely losing this war, and now the West is talking about taking back Crimea and fully taking back Donbass, even the region that was you know, previously in turmoil. So Putin could actually come out of this not only with a military that's been completely demolished and won't be rebuilt for another generation, but with losing gains. And then surely the Russian generals and the people around Putin will be looking at him being like, do we want this weak, humiliated, old, fat loser guy in charge? And they'll get rid of him.
Yeah. Is it a bit like an episode of Bullseye presented by Jim Bowen in the 80s when halfway through the game he's like, look, here's the money you've won. Yeah. Do you risk it for a speedboat?
Yeah. Do you want this 35 quid?
Yeah.
Or do you want a speedboat even though you live in Coventry and there's no... Where are you going to drive it? The canal?
And which you've got to share with your mate Bob.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think my references are dated, and then you come out with bullseye from the 80s.
Bullseye.
Like, all right, great.
I tell you, that's one for the teenagers. We'll talk about Doris Day later. Staying with Russia now, Putin's propaganda machine is in full force, towing the line, Dimitri.
Yeah, so there's a person whose job it is to actually watch Russian propaganda 24 hours a day. Well, not 24 hours, but every single day. And I really do feel really bad for them because, you know, it's I guess, demoralising, kind of seeing that a parallel existence can take place. It's actually what Leo was saying about Crimea being potentially taken back. My mum's got Ukrainian refugees staying at her house, like a mother and her 2 daughters. And this lady's mum is in Crimea and fully believes that Putin is there to save them. She was actually upset at the lady for going to London instead of coming to Crimea. So I think the people in Crimea are very much so under the Russian influence. And
so this propaganda is working.
Yeah, it's working surprisingly well. It's like, you know, when I was growing up there, like even as I left when I was 11 years old, and when I was leaving, I very much so was under the impression that BBC's all evil organisation that's, you know...
Well, yeah, you know...
Yeah, we'd agree with that.
Can't be wrong about everything, can they?
Yeah. But one of the things that Russia is saying in their propaganda is that everything's going according to plan. It is possibly technically true because we don't know what the plan is. So, you know, that could be the plan. And they're saying that they won't stop until Russian objectives of demilitarizing and denazifying Ukraine are achieved, which again, I think they're kind of working towards, right? Because there were not really a lot of Nazis there, so you kind of say that's been achieved. And they are demilitarizing the Ukrainian military because they're spending all their ammunition shooting down Russian...
Although the Ukrainian military have got more tanks now than they did at the start of the conflict because they keep stealing Russian tanks and dragging them with tractors, which people then search for in the House of Commons and find pornography instead.
Too right. Well, moving on now and getting away from Ukraine just for the moment, what's the best way to decide criminal justice? Maybe rock, paper, scissors, Leo?
Well, yeah, if you're a scantily clad woman in a bikini, you might get away with this. So there was a video that's had 18 million views of, apparently it's in Florida, we're not totally sure of the location, but it's 3 young women in bikinis on a boat. We're not sure what offence or alleged offence they'd committed, but a police patrol boat pulls up next to them, and the policeman decides to settle it by playing a game of rock, paper, scissors, which has received some criticism because, you know, some people say the police should actually enforce the law instead of playing fun games with scantily clad women. You know, there's been some comments like, don't try this when it's all dudes on the boat. And another one said, results may vary on skin colour. But apparently they interviewed the police officer and he said he was going to let them off anyway, and he just thought he'd do it in a fun way. Probably because he thought he was going to get one of their numbers.
I love it. Let's move on now to a driver playing loud music, Dimitri.
Oh, it's not just loud music, it's like loud exhausts and stuff like that. So England is looking to introduce a bunch of noise cameras in areas where there's particularly loud vehicles are prone to drive by, and which could result in a fine of up to £100. Okay. One of the cars, the types of cars that they say causes a lot of problems with noise pollution are things like Lamborghinis. Right. You know, where when they rev their engines and the noise goes through the roof. The only problem with this is that to rev an engine in a Lamborghini costs more than £100. So, I don't think it's going to prevent those guys from doing it. There's actually been a study by Barts and London School of Medicine that found a link between type 2 diabetes and noise pollution. From roads, which is, I think amazing. It's like people will blame anything other than their diet.
And would the fine be sort of related to how bad the noise is? I mean, would you pay more if someone was playing Status Quo, for example?
I think it's just a flat £50 fine, which isn't enough. If somebody's got a Lamborghini, they can obviously, afford 50 quid to rev the engine. I think it's annoying. And also, like, I don't understand why guys do it. Because when you hear, somebody revving their engine like that, and it's always a souped-up little Nova with like fire extinguishers in the window and like webbing seatbelts, as if you're going to do 100, maybe falling off a cliff. But they rev the engine, and there's no girl in that car. This is just some virginal, like 17-year-old boy racer with in his mum's car. It's ridiculous. I think we need to, instead of fines, we need to hand out some of these Ukrainian anti-tank weapons so people can just pop out the bedroom window and fire one down the sunroof of these Novas.
Now you're talking. I've actually got a Prius, a very old knackered Prius, but it's pretty reliable. And I was surprised when I bought it to find out that this rather middle-aged car that I just assumed was owned by sandal-wearing Liberal Democrats is used in America by gangsters because it's so quiet. It's a hybrid.
Is that
and it's used for drive-by shootings because the victims don't know there's a car behind them.
Right, no way.
Yeah. Who knew my car was so exciting?
Well, I thought the dealer must have just told you that to try and...
Well, it did. It closed the deal with Mrs. Dolan, who has murderous tendencies. But there you go. Now, look, let's get to home testing. It's back, but not for COVID, Leo.
Yeah, not for COVID, for UTIs, urinary tract infections. So at-home test kits which diagnose urinary tract infections within minutes are being trialled on the NHS and could save 10 million GP appointments every year. So they allow patients to self-test using a dipstick. Don't ask me where it goes. And then they scan the results onto their smartphone and get diagnosed via an app. But yeah, this apparently UTI appointments cost the NHS a lot of money. They're responsible for between 1% and 3% of GP appointments every year. So if we get people doing it on their phones, then that's a lot of NHS resources saved.
Soon we won't need doctors at all, will we?
No, we'll just have dipsticks and apps.
Exactly. You said you're wondering where the dipstick goes.
Yeah.
I guess a Tory MP could show you. Yeah. I mean, they know. They know human biology. Dimitri, how do you feel about being your own doctor?
I love it, especially as somebody who spent a decade working in the doctor's surgery. Not as a doctor, I'm not clinical. I'm a manager. This, to me, is heaven. This does mean that like doctors can continue working from Spain remotely and just not need to see anybody. But honestly, like, GPs get inundated with so many pointless appointments that can be done literally by a phone app.
Yeah.
Why bother them?
Yeah. Are they hypochondriacs, or is it they just want to talk to the doctor? Who are the worst offenders for wasting doctors' time?
Well, hypochondriacs are quite bad. It's not really the patient's fault. That's the only way you can get the antibiotics. That's the thing. It's like they go in there to tick a box, and nobody needs that. But it's bureaucracy.
Do medics get guilty? Do they feel guilty when hypochondriacs die?
Depends how.
Oh no! It turns out he was quite ill. Well, lots more to come. In fact, we've saved our best till last. Can't wait for our final stories of the show. After the break, billionaires in space, hostile popes, and woke Microsoft Word. See you soon.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, but to the point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Mark Dolan. Yes, a final look at tomorrow's papers tonight in the company of the world-class comedians Leo Kearse and Dmitry Bakanov. Now, Elon Musk is making the headlines again with yet another attack from the left, Dmitry.
Yeah, so AOC has accused Elon Musk of promoting the explosion of hate on Twitter by announcing that he's going to buy it, to which he responded, please stop flirting with me, I'm really shy.
And AOC, of course, is a leading left-wing politician, Democratic politician, on the left of the Democratic Party.
On the very, very left.
Yeah, the hard, like sort of Corbyn level.
Yeah.
Like she's fallen off and holding on by a rope.
Right. Yeah. And then I think she responded by saying, oh, I wasn't talking about you, I was talking about Facebook.
Yeah, she responded and said that she was talking about Zuckerberg and then deleted her tweet a minute later, which, by the way, never works. That is...
You can't do it.
Why even try that?
Someone is screenshotting it somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Instantly. I think there's algorithms set up.
And also it really makes it look like she was flirting with it. To, like, you know, say that, and then he's like, you're flirting with me. And she's like, I wasn't flirting, and delete.
Which tweet did she delete? The Zuckerberg tweet or the original one?
Saying that she wasn't...
Well, I wonder if that identifies her as a liar then, because she's basically tried to cover up for his response.
A liar
by saying,
from the
I wasn't talking about you.
Somebody on the left covering up something bad that they did. It would never happen.
Never.
I can't believe there's been so many liberal woke tears this week over Elon Musk buying Twitter. Even though, you know, they're worried about harassment, they're worried about political bias. Elon Musk is going to make the algorithm open source so we can see what it's doing. So if it's causing any bias, we can see it and we can fix it. He's going to make sure everybody's verified, so there won't be anybody hiding behind, you know, an avatar of an angry egg and just hurling abuse at people. And he's going to get rid of bots. So it's going to reduce, you know, abuse and harassment. It's going to reduce political bias. And of course, Twitter is hugely biased at the moment towards the Democrats and against right-wing people. And we can see this because we can see the political donations that are made by Twitter employees. And the proportion that went to the Democrats, 98.7%. That's virtually all of them. Virtually all of the donations by Twitter employees went to the Democrats. So there's no equity there.
We've heard about the civil service blob, the rump of civil servants who will not execute government policy like the Rwanda migrant plan because of their politics. And this blob is just an insuperable group of employees who will not play ball, right?
Fire them. If they won't do their jobs, fire them.
The question is, do you think that there's a blob within Twitter too? Can Elon Musk democratise Twitter with all of those woke employees on board?
Well, they've already said they're going to quit when he takes over.
So it's actually self-regulating, right?
We don't even need to pay severance. This is amazing. All the green hairs will just leave. Everybody with a nose piercing is going to walk out that door with their pronouns in a box.
They could be led through the ring on their nose, couldn't they?
They could, yeah.
Yeah, in a kind of bovine manner.
Yeah.
Almost.
What are you saying? They're not attractive?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but
I'd rather look at
people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones.
Nobody should throw stones.
Well said. Let's leave space for the billionaires and the robots. Sounds like a dystopian sci-fi, Leo.
Yeah, so this is in The Guardian. So Lord Martin Rees has said that the world's space agencies should scrap plans to send astronauts to the moon and to Mars using public funds and leave it to billionaires who can privately fund and risk such adventures. That's what he's an astronomer royal, apparently. I don't know what that is. That sounds more fun than the Queen. Why can't we make him the head of state? He turns up to state functions dressed as a spaceman. That would be brilliant. But basically he's saying advances in robotics and artificial intelligence mean we can do unmanned missions to Mars and to the outer reaches of the solar system. And, billionaires such as Elon Musk and Richard Branson, who already have, and Jeff Bezos as well, already have, space companies sending rockets up. They have the sort of the drive and the technical know-how to do this better than staid, public-funded organisations such as NASA can do it. So, yeah, I think he's got a really good point.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially historically, it was, explorers that went to the North Pole to climb the highest mountains. They all did it privately. I mean, fine, they were all, again, from wealthy families, but there was just an expedition that they did for fun. Same thing. Let these guys do it. Let them spend their money. If they manage to make something from it, great. If they don't, even better.
Yeah. I mean, who's going to make a better car? Like Audi, a private company, doing it, with their money, really focused on making the best car, or Haringey Council. That's the argument we've got between private enterprise and public sector.
There wouldn't even be a steering wheel. You would just be jogging to work. Those boffins at Oxford are one step closer to the discovery of a lifetime, Dimitri.
Yeah, so apparently scientists are they're racing to harness the power of nuclear fusion. And apparently there's been a series of breakthroughs in the last couple of months for the energy's holy grail. I honestly, I've read the story a number of times. I can't get half the words into my mind. All I like is the fact that this new fuel, which is hopefully going to be available fairly soon, has started making progress the second the Russian gas and oil are starting to be cut off, which is good timing, I think.
Yeah.
Suspiciously good timing. But, if we have to thank Putin for anything other than the rise of my career, it's also this.
Yeah, too right. So I won't ask you for the science of nuclear fusion, but what is the application? Would it power cars? Would it fuel homes? How does it work?
It's a cleaner yet more dangerous way to generate electricity. Right. So far, they've managed to generate enough electricity to power 60 kettles.
Yeah, which is quite a lot of kettles.
That's a lot of kettles at the same time.
Yeah.
But it did cost £50 million.
Yeah.
So...
the way gas prices are going, that's not so outrageous. But yeah, this basically recreates what happens in the sun, the star, the sun, not the newspaper. And so
phone tapping? What's going on?
Hydrogen atoms are pushed together at incredibly high pressure, and it releases energy and it releases helium. So there's no radioactive byproducts, but it is crazy, and it is like something out of a James Bond film.
Yeah, but we're desperate, and when needs must, hey? Good luck with that. A tale of two popes, and it's not all rosy in the Vatican, Leo.
Yeah, we've got Pope wars here. So Popes Francis and Benedict. So one of them's the new one of them's the old one. I think Benedict is the old one.
Yeah, Benedict's the old one, yeah.
He's the old one.
Benny to his friends.
When I say old, I mean he's 95. So even the new one's 85. There's no spring chickens in the Pope game. But maybe we need to shake things up. Get a 21-year-old Pope in there, give it a bit of youth.
Or Benedict, he's 95, did you say?
Yeah, so...
perhaps make him President of the United States, just to bring some energy to the job.
Yeah, just to bring...
Someone that can, get to the end of the sentence without too much trouble.
Who can leave the lectern and walk off without trying to shake hands in midair with nothing, and then, walk into a bit of canvas. But yeah, so basically it started off nice. So Benedict, I think, is the first Pope in 6 centuries to actually step down instead of wait for God to take him, which is a nice way of saying die. So he stood down, and the new guy came in, and they were both getting on well. So Benedict said, the new one, Francis, said Benedict was a wise grandfather and treated him with deference. And the old guy, Benedict, is it Benedict? I'm getting confused.
Benedict's the old one, yes.
Said he would assist him by becoming invisible and silent, but they're not invisible and silent. They're battling over appointees and people getting fired and stuff. It's actually quite boring when you look at it. I think you'd have to be a high-ranking member of the Catholic Church to get excited by this. But I've said that about a lot of things.
Well, I think you've definitely got a fair comment there. Listen, if we can, Richard, I think we'll jump a couple of stories, and let's have a look at school online parents' evenings, Leo.
So this is this is in the Telegraph. So parents are sick to death of parent-teacher evenings, used to be done face-to-face. You go in, you'd speak to the teacher, see how your kid's doing, and now it's being done over Zoom, like so much in the public sector. Hey, I'm not saying public sector people are lazy, but they do like doing things over Zoom, even though we're out of the pandemic and we can go back to doing things face-to-face. I've noticed that my missus is pregnant and the natal classes are being done over Zoom, and it's a shame because it's a natal class would be where you meet other expectant mothers.
And stare at other pregnant women, yeah.
Exactly, you know what I mean? So, and you can meet the fathers, go for a beer, go for a barbecue, so it forms that community of parents, and now they're not getting it because people can't be bothered to put it on in real life. They just want to sit at a laptop and not go and do any work. So basically this is happening with school, parent-teacher evenings as well.
It's given organisations an excuse to be rubbish, hasn't it? Those three terrible words, Dimitri, because of COVID.
Yeah.
So the call centres, why are the call centres slowed down by COVID? How does that work?
Yeah.
They're on the phone.
Yeah.
They have to sit further apart.
Is that it?
Can't they just do it from home?
I don't know, maybe their connection's slower. It's, you have to be encouraged. There isn't the person, what's it called?
Cracking the whip.
Yes, thank you. I'm foreign, I don't speak English well. I need this Scottish guy to help me out. This is embarrassing.
And you don't like whip imagery, and I understand that. It's a bit medieval, isn't it?
Yes.
Crack the whip,
And Scotland, of course, is a home of many call centres. In fact, it was a relief to most people in England when call centres moved to like Romania and India, because then at least you could understand the accent better.
Yeah, too right. Nicely done. I think that we've got to get back to normal. I did a comedy gig the other day, and we were handed individual microphones, which were sanitised. And I just thought, where does this end? I mean, comedians are full of viruses, don't get me wrong.
Although Zoom gigs still going. I did a Zoom gig today for Shanghai, because they're in lockdown there.
How long was that gig? 3 hours?
I did about 40 minutes.
Amazing. Wow. Did you really entertain people in China?
Yeah. And funnily enough, there's a Chinese comedian, is it Chin Wang? I hope I got that right, or I'll sound terribly racist. But she's based in London. She's really funny, and she was on the gig as well for people in Shanghai. OK, well, crumbs. Well done you. More power to your elbow. Is it Microsoft Word or is it Microsoft Woke, Dimitri?
Yeah, so this is the story that Microsoft Word is starting to censor you by providing politically correct options, which is, it's a great way of affecting how people think. A lot of people use, writing as a method of putting down their thoughts, and if somebody corrects you every single time, I might not need a girlfriend if I've got a Microsoft Word to do this for me.
But it's terrible, isn't it? Because it will offer you an alternative to mankind or manpower,
which are actual words, legitimate words that you can use. I mean, this is just going to I'm going to want to put my laptop through the window if it keeps suggesting these words. And also, a lot of this inclusive language, which is designed to make sure nobody feels excluded, ends up making a lot of people feel excluded. Like, I was talking about my missus being pregnant, so she gets stuff from the leaflets from the NHS that refer to as a birthing person or a person with a cervix, and that doesn't make her feel good.
No.
She's a woman, and I think anybody who's trans or whatever understands that this also refers to them. They're included in this. So there's no point alienating 99.9% of people.
Well, let me tell you that Leo Kearse and Dmitry Bakanov are my favourite birthing humans, and I love both of their cervixes, I've got to say. Thank you so much, chaps. Dmitry knocked it out the park in your first appearance on Headliners. Do come back soon, of course. Leo, a stalwart of the programme. And don't forget, you can catch Leo every week, Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights at 8 p.m. Lots more to come. I will see you tomorrow at 9. Thanks for your company.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GBNews.
My name's Tom Harwood, and every weekday we bring you The Briefing live from 9:30 a.m. for stories, analysis and live debate that you need to hear.
Quite right, Tom, of course.
Was this something that had been considered at all?
Difficult to answer.
Gas-guzzling helicopters circling. No!
noise is being made here. Joe Biden walking out. Thank you very much for joining us. Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, Monday to Friday, 9:30 a.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
On radio, they call it the drive time slot, 4 p.m. until 6 p.m. as listeners head home. It's that part of the schedule when the dust of the day's events begin to clarify, and we try to make sense of it for you. Brazier is drive time for radio and TV. It's fast, it's punchy, it's opinionated, there's a Brazier angle and a little bit of levity.
That's the question. That's two questions, actually.
That's Brazier, Monday to Thursday, 4 till 6 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Patrick Christie's.
And I'm Mercy Moroki.
Make sure that you join us Monday to Thursday, 10 a.m. until midday, right here on GB News for To The Point.
We're not afraid to talk about the topics that matter to you, or the big topics that always matter.
We cover absolutely everything, from the breaking political stories of the day to law and order, what's going on in the channel. We're not afraid to hold people to account.
We always make sure we include your views on our show.
Indeed, if you're thinking it, you can guarantee that we're saying it. So make sure you join the conversation with us, 10 a.m. until midday, Monday to Thursday, for To The Point on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Good evening. Welcome along to Neil Oliver Live on GB News TV and on radio. On tonight's show, in company with my guests, Daniel Moylan and Jacob Reynolds, we'll be hearing about life inside one of China's vast COVID quarantine camps as the Chinese Communist Party keeps millions of its citizens locked down in their homes in pursuit of zero COVID. Plus, we'll talk about a national shortage of hormone replacement therapy drugs affecting thousands of women and leaving many with no option but to travel overseas in search of alternative supplies. Former Royal Marine Monty Halls will be with us to talk about his new book, Commando, accompanying a new TV series detailing the derring-do and extraordinary history of the legendary elite fighting force. And if all that wasn't thrilling enough, we'll celebrate the birthday of Rosie, the world's oldest Humboldt penguin. Don't waddle off. But first, here's the news with Tamsin Roberts.
Neil, thank you. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The MP accused of watching pornography in the Commons has announced that he will resign. Neil Parish admitted looking at adult material on 2 occasions, once deliberately. A spokesperson for his local Conservative association thanked the MP for his service and said they supported his decision. Speaking to the BBC, Mr Parish said it was a moment of madness and that he was not proud of his actions.
The situation was that funnily enough, it was tractors that I was looking at, and so I did get into another website that had a sort of very similar name, and I watched it for a bit, which I shouldn't have done. But my biggest crime, is that on another occasion I went in a second time.
And that was deliberately?
And that was deliberate.
And was that in the Select Committee or in the Commons chamber?
That was sitting, waiting to vote.
Former Conservative advisor Claire Pearsall told GB News she's not surprised Mr Parish has resigned.
He will be hounded by the media. He will also be hounded by his residents, quite rightly, who want an answer. But also, if he came back to the House of Commons when we return in a couple of weeks' time, I suspect that all questions will be directed to him about this behaviour. So I can understand why he's done it, but I'm disappointed because it means now that there is no investigation. And I do worry that no action will ever get taken to change the atmosphere that we have.
Ukraine's defence ministry says Russia is increasing the intensity of their offensive in the east of the country. They claim that residents in the region of Kharkiv and neighbouring areas were being forcibly taken to Russia by Moscow's forces. The city of Mariupol is also still under siege, with Russian troops focusing on the steelworks, where hundreds of troops and civilians are stranded. Residents of the southern port city have spoken of the total devastation of their homes.
It was my home, or what's left of it after the shellings. Everything burned, so now I have become homeless. I have nowhere to go. Now I live in my friend's place. He sheltered me for some time. Everything is gone. All that's left is the toilet, door and hallway. Nothing more.
Tell me, was it a necessity to bomb civilians with such bombs? You have to be a fanatic to do it. No shame, no conscience, no feeling of proportion, nothing. They made the whole block homeless in old age.
Police in Ukraine say they found a mass grave containing the bodies of men who were apparently bound, gagged and tortured. It's after the US accused the Russian President Vladimir Putin of brutality and depravity in his 2-month invasion of the country. Kiev says more than 1,000 bodies have been discovered in around the town of Bucha so far, where it's alleged Russia has committed numerous war crimes. Moscow rejects the allegation, and the brother of Kiev's mayor, Vladimir Klitschko, says he's seen evidence of Russian war crimes in his country.
Tortured, executed bodies of civilians with their hands tied behind their back, on their knee, and executed with the headshots. I've seen it with my own eyes, many, hundreds of dead civilians. It's just horrifying.
The government is investigating reports an injured British man is being held captive by Russia. It's after an unverified video emerged reportedly showing Andrew Hill being interrogated by Russian forces after being captured in Ukraine. The Foreign Office is urgently seeking more information and is supporting his family members. Police searching for a woman who went missing a week ago in Lancashire say they found a body. Katie Kenyon was last seen getting into a Ford Transit van in Burnley 8 days ago. Officers say formal identification is yet to take place, but the family of the 33-year-old mother of 2 have been informed of the discovery. TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to Neil Oliver Live.
We need some grown-ups in the room, and pronto. As things stand in this country, right this moment, we're being governed by what appear to be outsized school children, intent only on picking fights with one another in the playground, calling each other names. As far as anyone can tell, the party of government and those of the opposition are interested only in themselves and each other. Life in a goldfish bowl has apparently given them 5-minute memory spans. Round and round they swim, seeing nothing beyond the glass and having the same tiny fights with their fellow inmates again and again and again. It's narcissistic nonsense from a political class that demonstrably feels entitled to treat us proles with out-and-out contempt while they set about the petty business of personal point scoring. This internecine squabbling is apparently supposed to keep us happy, thrilled by their clever verbal sparring, as if. More than anything else, the carryings on of Johnson, Starmer, Rayner, et al. Take me all the way back to my own days at school, watching the members of the various self-important cliques sniping at one another in hopes of being briefly seen to have come out on top. Partygate, Cakegate, Beergate, Raynergate, Porngate. It's one childish tantrum spat after another. And we're supposed to care who's winning. Events on the green benches of the Commons this week just past have been like an episode of 80s comprehensive school drama Grange Hill. Zamo got caught in class with a copy of Razzle magazine stuffed down his trousers. Trisha Yates was in bother again on account of her skirt not being deemed appropriate for school. And serial clown Tucker Jenkins was, as per usual, caught up in one hilarious scrape after another. How we didn't laugh. If their antics aren't from the school playground, then it might as well be carry on up the dispatch box. It's nothing more or less than embarrassing. And to a great extent, the joke really is on us, because we give these characters our votes. Of course, none of it's really funny at all. It's pathetic when you get right down to it. And we're paying for this skit show. Sometimes you have to wonder if what we're seeing, what we're being treated to as some sort of amateur dramatics slapstick comedy isn't deliberate distraction. Feeding us full of popcorn at the circus is hardly an original tactic from MPs who need the peasants to look the other way. History is awash with times when the rulers